Today is February 2nd, 2021. Lee County Board of County Commissioners will convene. We'll have an invocation by Pastor Gasper Anastasi from the World Life Ministry. Thank you.
Well, good morning, everybody. Father, we're so grateful that you woke us up this morning. You gave us life. You've given us the spirit of wisdom to do your business today, and we pray that your presence be here, that every decision that this board makes glorifies your name and brings your kingdom here on earth, Lord. That's our purpose. And we thank you that this room is filled with your presence, and the peace of the Lord will touch everyone's heart. And so, Lord, we ask that you have your way today, that your name be glorified in every decision, everything that's made today, Lord. Let it bring glory and honor to you. And we thank you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Return to the flag, please. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Amen.
Thank you, Pastor. I'm going to go through the recap. We have several items. Item number 22 has been asked to be deferred until February 16th.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Item number 16 was asked to be pulled by Commissioner Hammond.
We'll discuss that.
We have a walk-on for FEMA disaster relief agreement that we need to obviously talk about, and then we also have updates by the county manager and the county attorney. At the end of the meeting, we'll be extending COVID-19 for the 46th time. With that in mind, let's go to the all the other items except the agenda. I'm sorry. Anyone else have anything else to pull?
I'd like to pull a couple of them, please.
Yes, sir.
Consent 6 and consent 10.
6 and 10?
Yes,
okay.
That's all.
Got it. So we have 6, 10, and 16. We'll pull the remaining items on the agenda. Can I entertain a motion?
Move the balance.
Second.
Motion is second. Any public comment? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you. We'll go to the first item that we've pulled. Commissioner Mann, number 6.
This is a routine action that we've taken many, many times in the past, but I just need a reminder on the process here. The item summary says authorize staff to start the process for refinancing at a lower interest rate. You're asking our authority, but what triggers this? Because we've done so many of them, and isn't this kind of a natural thing? Am I asking you, Mr. DeJarlais?
Mr. Chair?
Sure.
Pete? Commissioner, we as well as our financial advisor are always monitoring interest rates, and because of the low interest rate environment we're in, they let us know when there would be significant savings on refinancing certain debt instruments. Both of these, when we refinance, we don't extend the term, we refinance to the existing term, and we try to gain at least above a 3% savings. So both of these qualify for that.
Help me understand the bond market again, though. We can't just anytime we feel like it go out and refinance bonds because they have built-in minimum terms that we have to live with, and after such time, is that when we would automatically, somebody would say, okay, the interest rate on this one can be improved on today's market, and that's when it comes to us?
Yeah, generally, yes. These are not bonds. These are both a state revolving fund loans. That's a program through the state of Florida that were entered into for water and sewer projects, and we're going to refinance them with bank loans. So no bonds involved with this.
Is it a similar process we're talking about, which would trigger it?
Yes.
But it mentions going out for bond counsel, going on an RFP of some type?
And that bond counsel will just, it will do the same thing, but it will just be reviewing the the agreement with the bank.
We don't have a regular bond counsel that we approve to do all of our work for like 5 years. Every time we refinance, we go on the streets for a new counsel for that bond issuance or that refinancing of a loan.
Yeah, that we don't go out on the street. It's the discretion of administration and county attorney's office, and we get together and talk about who would be good to be the bond counsel for that. We've typically used Tom Giblin on issues like this.
Say that again so that I understand. Staff has people that we already trust, so but didn't I read that this would go on the streets for?
It'll go on the street for the bank loan, not for the bond counsel.
Maybe I can help you out.
Well, you're in this business. Help me. I'd be happy to hear from you.
So, Commissioner, there's many different vehicles that you have an opportunity to utilize when you're doing debt financing, okay? Bonds, you're right, typically have an ability to actually refinance them, but typically the first part of the term you cannot. There's prevention penalties. Notes and loans have different prevailing situations with them where they don't have some of those same confrontations or some of those impasses, okay? You can refinance them at any point in time. Additionally, what you do is you generally go out to a counsel to give you advice. Okay, we have a particular counsel, but then you actually go out to the market itself. You might be going out to banks, you might be going out to credit unions, you go out to various people who's going to give you the best possible interest rate to obviously have the greatest savings for us. You look at factors as far as our term, you look at the rate.
It's the selection of the counsel.
The counsel we have, I think what's going out, your question was out to the street. We're going out to the market for banks to bid on our debt. So that's really where the competitive nature is, and you want to be fully disclosed. That's the reason for the RFP. Is that correct?
Yes.
And Commissioner, we have been, Neighbors Giblin has been our bond counsel for quite a while. They are a very trusted firm. They are responsible for reviewing all the documents, similar to like an owner's rep. To ensure that we're not incurring any more liability than is necessary.
But Giblin is the one that we have used to direct the process, but we still go on the street for the ultimate reviewer of
We go out to bid,
renewal.
Commissioner, we go out to bid for the best interest rate.
You're going out to the street to have banks.
Look, let me tell you where my caution comes from. The reason for all this. It's my understanding that the fees, although they are in small percentages, 1 or less or thereabouts, for these services, the fees on a $100 million loan or $60 million, whatever it is, can be substantial. So I'm wanting to feel comfortable about the process by who these fee earners are chosen, and that it's wide open and beyond question.
Pete?
Commissioner, the projected savings that we have are inclusive of all fees. So that's incorporated. The fees we pay are incorporated into the net savings.
So there's two people involved in this. One is counsel, 2 is the market. We've used the same person as counsel forever. The market basically just allows various people in the market to bid on our debt, give us the best situation. What Pete is indicating is that we look at the total savings less the fees, and here's our realized savings. When that number is obviously advantageous, we refinance bonds. So we're saving the taxpayers of Lee County a lot of money doing it.
Okay, look, I appreciate the little briefer here. And I'm not questioning any of the folks we got involved in it. I just want to understand what triggered it and how it works when it goes on the streets for a final selection of the folks that are going to help us do this. So I'll move this item.
I have a motion on the floor.
Second.
Commissioner Mann, by Commissioner Pendergrass. Any public comment? Seeing none. Any opposition? Motion carries unanimous. Item number 10.
Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, this is simply an attaboy. Mr. Dejarle, I want to thank you and the staff. Attached to this sole source bid is a one-page explanation it sort of duplicates itself, but it goes out of its way to make it clear why there is only a single source bidding. You know, this is my pet peeve, but to the extent other departments and supervisors can duplicate this, this was very well done.
Thank you, sir.
To help a poor elderly commissioner understand why we were not able to go on the street in this case and bring in a lot of other people. They were not available, and the ones, it was convincing as to why we were sticking with the sole source. In this case, just do it again because it was so well done. I move the item.
Thank you, Commissioner.
I have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Mann. Second by Commissioner Sandelli. Any public comment? Any opposition? Motion carries unanimous.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
No problem. Item number 16, Commissioner Hammond.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item number 16 is the item to approve the emergency repairs at JetBlue Stadium. JetBlue Stadium is a stadium that was built for $78 million less than 10 years ago. And throughout the last year, we found multiple problems with that stadium. While we had, my understanding is while we had contractors in there doing repairs that cost up to $1.7 million approximately, they then found that repairs were needed to the skywalk, urgent repairs because of the skywalk cracking at the connection points on each end. The staff did the appropriate thing. They shut the skywalk down and made sure that the area was safe for anybody who was walking through there. And they got it repaired on an emergency basis. And what we're being asked to do today is actually a very easy thing to approve. They've asked us to retroactively approve that emergency expenditure. So I plan on supporting the motion that's requested today. But one thing that hasn't sat right with me since reading the blue sheet last week was just the fact that we've got a stadium here that is less than 10 years old. It's now had to have some pretty major rehabilitation to the handrails, to the walkways, to the concrete areas where we were seeing delamination, and now to this skywalk where we could have seen a potentially catastrophic failure. And I wanted to just kind of have a discussion with you all about what your thoughts are on that, and also have our county manager give us an update on what actions they're taking to review the safety and the structural integrity of the stadium.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chair, thank you. Commissioners, we feel the same as you all do with regard to these repairs. It's very difficult to tell at this point what exactly has caused the failure in this case, whether it was a design flaw or a construction flaw. It's just one of those things that we've talked to our experts, and it's just very difficult to tell. However, going forward, in conversation with Mr. Lavender yesterday, he intends to ask for dollars in his budget to do a structural engineering structural review both stadiums in this coming year. So, following spring training, and into the new year, we would anticipate that happening. So far, we cannot find anything in the existing structures that would be a public safety issue. I don't believe there are, but in an abundance of caution and to anticipate future costs, we'll do a very thorough structural engineering review.
Thank you. And that's, again, that's the conversation. Of course, I would support, and I'll make a motion right now to approve the item as presented by staff, their recommendation for the not to exceed expenditure of $250,000. But and Mr. DeGillet, you have information that actually came in a little less than $250,000.
I think, Chris?
Yes, Commissioner. At this point right now, we're anticipating that number to be closer to the $150,000, maybe a little bit more, but I believe we'll know that in the next couple of weeks.
And the work is expected to be finished before spring training?
Absolutely.
Good deal. So I'll move the approval.
So, thank you, Chairman. If I could, I don't know who would be able to answer the question. So, what kind of warranty do we have currently with this? So, my concern with this whole item, obviously can support the motion because we had to repair it. But my concern was, when I first heard about this a while back, was, how did this happen? It's only 9 years old. A lot of money was spent. Some of us are here because of the stadium built. I mean, to be honest, let's go back to 10 years ago. The whole stadium was a big controversy here in Lee County. And now here we are 9 years later asking to approve more money to be put back into this. So my question is, for the current work being done, what's the warranty on that work? Because that was the first question I had about the stadium, is the warranty we had, which we had no warranty from due to the dealings that happened back then. So,
Thank you.
but the current warranty, how long is this good for?
Jesse?
Yeah,
Yeah, Mr. Lavender, can you help us with that question, please? And if we don't have that information at our
Yeah, I
fingertips,
was
we
just
will get it
curious
for you.
because I just don't want to be sitting here 4 or 5 years from now and
Understand.
have the same concern again. And I just do not want us to put another dollar back in that stadium unless it has to
Understand.
be done.
For the
Jesse.
work that is just got done, it's 1 year for the work that was completed and 10 years for the steel that was put in place.
Okay, thank you. And the funding, is it TDC funding or is it general fund funding for this emergency funding?
It's TDT funding.
Okay, so to be clear for the record, everybody, it's that tax money, so the tourists staying here in hotels are paying for this, for the repairs. Okay, thank you.
Could you hold him if you're through with
Jesse.
him?
Jesse?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, thank you for bringing this up. Well, I had the same conversation with Jesse, and while you're here, I want to keep your feet kind of warm and dancing on this. The example I gave Jesse was 1,800, perhaps as long as 2,000 years ago, the Romans were building aqueducts all over Europe. You can see them in England today. I don't know that they had a warranty, but they're still standing. It's frustrating, and all of us, 10 years old, they used concrete that still holds together. This is so frustrating, and I need to better understand, so say it again in little words, how warranties are a part of our contracting today, because this just seems inexcusable that in a decade, modern-day construction with concrete falls apart. Is it the rebar that's no good, or how is it in a decade, and why they fall apart first off, and secondly, why is somebody not responsible for it? I'm glad it's the tourist tax dollars not coming out of our local taxpayers' dollars, but that doesn't justify it. So try one more time to answer his question, because it's still something we cannot easily explain to our residents and taxpayers out here.
So, Commissioner, just,
I don't care who answers.
I don't quite understand the question. Just, could you try me one more time, please?
Why is it construction today doesn't last more than 10 years? And
Yes,
why
he's
are not the builder contractors responsible for it?
Okay. Ehab, can you help us out?
Good morning. Ehab Gerges, Facilities Director. To answer this, back then the Roman and the Egyptians and all these people, they used to use natural material. So all these nice buildings that are still standing up to now, 2,000, 4,000 years, is built from stone. Right now we use concrete, which has different components, and steel, and that's why things are not, it needs regular maintenance to keep it up to date. So for concrete to crack, that's normal. You cannot find any concrete that will not crack. Even when someone smart said that I'm going to invent the pre-stressed concrete beams because they will not crack, still pre-stressed beams will crack. The reason of cracks are many different reasons. It might be for the shear load, the moment, the temperature, the curing of the concrete during construction. If it's not done right, it will let the concrete crack. So what we are doing with these stadiums, we keep monitoring these cracks. So the best thing we can do is repair these cracks before it become a major issue. When the concrete crack, it's a minor crack, we can fill it. If we leave it until it's wide open, the intrusion of the air and water will come to the steel. It will cause the steel to rust, and then we have a major issue.
I don't want to waste the Commission's time on this a whole lot further, but it still defies rational explanation to me. These scientific and engineering facts that you're pointing out where the cracks are anticipated, is that taken into consideration in the original contracts when we're hiring the general and he's hiring the subs? I don't know where this gets to, where it's the concrete person, but is there somewhere in there that says it's reasonable to anticipate some cracks in the future, so that's why we don't give it a warranty for life?
I don't know that that language, Commissioner, is specifically in those agreements, but we know from experience that any commercial property, it's got a lot of concrete, is going to have, ongoing maintenance, and there will be failures. This is not a public safety failure. Left unchecked and left unrepaired, it could be some years down the road, but we always expect that any concrete structure, no matter what it is, whether it's a road or a building or a stadium, is going to have some of these problems. Now, this one in particular that we're dealing with today, I can't tell you with any specificity whether it was a design or construction flaw. It was one or the other, I have no doubt. Should not have failed this early. The problem is that the warranties don't, this building was, this structure was built 10 years ago, and it's out of warranty. So we have to do the work. We watch it very carefully. We make sure that we're doing the maintenance on all of these structures so we don't have deferred maintenance problems that cause public safety issues or additional costs.
Let me interrupt and wind this down. It would help me, and I believe all of us, to know that this incident has triggered an extended conversation between you and county attorney's office to review this for future contracts and see if we might do something that gives a little more security to us who are paying the bills.
Let's hear from the county attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Board members, with regard to this specific item, at the county manager's request, we have been working with his staff to review the causation or the possible causation of the work that's to be undertaken. If during the engineering study that the manager referenced earlier, it is ascertainable with a relative degree of certainty that there's either a provable design flaw or a construction flaw, we will prosecute the county's interests to make sure that we are made whole. I would suggest to you, however, that at a minimum, you had in 2017 Hurricane Irma that might have played a factor. And as you all know, construction defect claims are expensive to litigate. But rest assured that if we believe we have a provable case to seek recovery against either the architects, the engineers, or the general contractor, we will do so.
There's some comfort in that. Thank you for bringing it up.
I think we're all obviously concerned about it, and I can tell you, Commissioner, that we experienced a similar situation at our rec center on Sanibel. Not nearly as expensive a facility, but at the 10-year mark, we had several issues. We went through all the engineering studies, and we certainly were told by council there was not a ability and avenue to pursue. Unfortunately, I think what this board is faced with is a situation from the past, and you're obviously doing that. When you think about construction contracts going forward, I'm sure we'll all have different conversations about warranties and the extent of those and the life of those. But the marketplace was what it was, and I think the county attorney puts really something on the record that I don't know how you factor in is when you have hurricanes, and we were told the same exact thing. That obviously is a factor that could impact the concrete settling, moving, things of that nature that was not initially designed when it was engineered.
I hate to belabor this, but every time I hear hurricane as a possible excuse for anything, it drives me nuts because we have rules on top of rules in the state of Florida and the county to build to hurricane standards. And that just is unacceptable to me, and we know how to do that.
It doesn't necessarily take into consideration that there won't be a crack in it. It's the structure is going to be stood. And I understand your frustration.
Thank you for the time.
You know what? I do, but I'm just to indicate that's part of it. Okay. Yes, sir.
Just two quick comments. Number one, everything we do, we learn. So I'm sure that we'll carry these forward. and hopefully we'll do a better job in looking at what warranties are and so on and so forth. Maybe on the better side, we missed spring training last year with the hope that it comes back and it brings that element back. Can you just very quickly, what does spring training look like this year, and what can we anticipate, which will be good for all of us?
Jesse?
To answer your question, Commissioner, spring training is hopefully going to start on time. There's still some negotiating to be done between the Players Association and Major League Baseball, but we anticipate it starting on time. I believe the pitchers and catchers are due to arrive February 17th.
I don't need a lot of detail. What do we expect capacity-wise?
24%.
24, okay.
Both stadiums.
Great, thank you. And you need to move this on? That's okay.
Okay, so I made a motion for approval, and I think we'll need a second.
We need a second. Okay, second from Commissioner Sandeli. Any other discussion? And having no public comment at all, everybody in favor? Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Next, we'll go on to the administrative agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This administrative item number 1 is to approve construction manager services contract for the improvements to Brooks Park. Ehab, will you please present the item?
Good morning. Ehab Gerges, Facilities Director. This item is to approve Brooks Park renovation and expansion. The renovation would be for the existing restrooms in the building in the south area. The renovation will bring these restrooms up to current standards and ADA code. It's in this red circle. The expansion will be adding 196 parking spaces in that red circle, and drainage improvement, landscape improvement. Also, we're adding a small building here. It's about 200 square feet for additional restrooms. We're also adding a shade structure here. It's about 400 square feet. If approved, construction will start in 2 weeks, and we should be able to finish the job in about 7 months.
I move the item.
Second.
Motion is second. Any public comment? Any discussion? Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Item number 2.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item number 2 is to award contract for Caloosahatchee Canal Rehab L3. Roland, please present.
Good morning, Commissioners. Roland Ottolini, Natural Resources. This is award a construction contract to TSI Disaster Recovery, LLC, an amount of $196,570. This is for the construction of the Canal C11 or L3. Just lies just south of Boy Scout and between Cleveland, US 41, and Summerlin. And we're going to provide some water quality treatment features in a weir control structure at the south end of that red elongated canal there, and then also some catch basins in the area just east of that. It's a light industrial area, has no stormwater treatment. This will provide some benefits as well to that. This canal eventually goes to Canal L, which then goes to Whiskey Creek and on out to Caloosahatchee River. We get TMDL credits for this. We've also received $400,000 from DEP on a grant fund for this project to date.
Great job.
Mr. Chairman, if I may. So, Roland, if I'm hearing you right, it sounds like this is an older canal that was a drainage way that was constructed a long time ago, before we had, I guess, the same water quality standards and desires that we have today. And it's in a lighter industrial area, so you said it was built with no water treatment. So everything that flows into this canal is basically untreated and then flows out. So the project that you're going to do it and you're going to do here in like plain English is going to provide that water treatment?
Yes, it will. That area between the canal and Cleveland Avenue, the water will collect in a catch basin, and it will have water quality features there, and then discharge this canal is outlined in red. It'll have a water control structure at the south end of that will provide further treatment. So it's an old canal. It was built in the 20s, Iona Drainage District.
Thank you, Roland. Thanks for this great. This is a great project. And if you've not been in contact with any residents in Whiskey Creek over the last few years, this canal has been a contributor to some of the issues there in Whiskey Creek. It flows out to the Caloosahatchee as far as stuff basically flows downstream, and that's just one of the issues of this canal here. So thank you for bringing this project forward, and hopefully it's going to improve that area there. I move the item.
Second.
Motion is second. Any public comment? Seeing none, any discussion?
Thank you.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Next, we'll go to, obviously, walk-on items.
Thank you,
There's no public hearing, so we'll go to walk-on items. County Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We're asking you to approve the FEMA Disaster Relief Grant Agreement. Pete, will you please present the item?
Yes, thank you, Roger. Commissioners, this is an agreement with FEMA to seek reimbursement for COVID-19 expenses, and more specifically for vaccination costs, including our mass vaccination site by the airport. FEMA has indicated that it was going to reimburse 100% for those types of costs beginning January 21st. So this is the agreement to, it's similar to what happens after a hurricane for reimbursement.
That's great news.
Yeah, Commissioners, this one really is a piece of good news. The RSW site for vaccinations, we've been covering that cost using CARES dollars, and that money is finite. We have the rest of this year to spend those dollars, but FEMA agreeing to pay 100% of the vaccination costs in each county is really spectacular.
I think it's great, and appreciate all the staff's work on that. Not only providing FEMA reimbursement, but obviously it is a costly facility that we're running, and obviously first and second shots are enable us to do so. So thank you all staff for all you did for this. Appreciate
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I may ask a question. So, Roger, we've talked about this site. It's a fantastic site. If you haven't had a chance to see it, it's some of the finest work I've seen from the county. Really, you've done a great job. We've talked about in the past, we could, with the right personnel and enhancements at this site, get to the ability to give 10,000 shots a day. If we were to ever get the doses to be able to do that, would FEMA be able to reimburse us 100% for those costs as well?
Yes, sir. That would be that's covered under this agreement.
Okay. So, I mean, the bottom line is we really just need the doses. Right now, we're only getting about 2,500, 2,800 first doses a week.
Yes, sir. That's, several weeks ago, we were up to the 5,800 per week. And essentially the same number of doses come to Lee County, but Publix gets a portion of those that are allocated for the county. And so what we have to administer from the site is about 2,500 doses per week right now. We're very hopeful that that number increases as as pharmaceutical companies begin to continue to ramp up production. So we don't know from 1 week to the next how many doses we'll have, but I know that there have been a lot of communications with the governor's office.
But we're also doing thousands of second doses there as well, too. So the site is being utilized throughout the week, but we could certainly utilize it to an even fuller capacity if we were able to get those doses.
Yes, sir. Last week we did about 6,000 second doses, and this week, 9,000 this week.
Excellent.
So the second dose program is going very well.
Just a quick comment. I've visited a couple of public stores. I think it's taken them a couple of weeks to continue to learn how to run their business, as well as deal with the dosage and so on and so forth. I know the store near me, they're doing, I think, 50 a day, just to give you some reference on how they're covering, because they got to do within their own staff and stuff. So it's helping, but it's a small portion of what we're able to deliver.
I think it's really important just to continue to clarify the record. I know a lot of people are very upset, very anxious, and I appreciate what you're all going through. I can tell you it is extremely frustrating, and I understand it's been a long time. We're doing the best we can. I applaud the staff, done it before, but we initially received 12,000 doses, then we went to 4,500, then we went to 9,000, then we went to 5,800, then we went to 2,500, then we went to 2,800. So people talk about a reservation system, really difficult to plan something when you don't know how many people are coming to the party. if you will. It's really difficult to continue to do this, and yet the staff continues to do that. And then, the assurance of the people having anxiety for their second shot. We received, certainly 12,000 and an additional 4,500. So we're continuing to do exactly what we're going to do. I've had many different mayors out there, brought them into the facility. Everyone's amazed with the facility. I agree with Commissioner Hammond. We have the ability to execute, and probably, if we had the right doses in this county, we'd probably have the county, completely vaccinated in 6 or 7 weeks. I mean, it's that simple. It's unfortunate. I applaud all the people in the community, our local delegation, along with the mayors and myself, on behalf of the county commissioners. We rode to the governor's office. I spoke with the governor's chief of staff. We've tried to go through the Department of Emergency Management, trying to work through the channels. I just think it would be imperative if the governor could come down here and see our facility. I've heard a lot of comments and kudos to the Hard Rock over in Miami. I honestly can tell you that there's not a better facility around, and I wish that he'd come down here. But thank you for all you do. Appreciate staff.
Thank you, Commissioners. And during County Manager's comments, we have a full report for you on COVID.
I have a question. Roger, what's the plan? Again, staff are doing a great job, and we've got to remind everybody this is the state program. A lot of state health department employees are providing this, and our county employees working with them. But what's the plan in the future if the doses are reduced to Florida? As far as that outdoor site, are we looking maybe going indoors somewhere, or be the State Department of Health doing the vaccination inside their own facilities and would not be involved with the county at all then?
Commissioners, we've had a lot of conversation with Angela Smith, the local Florida Health Department administrator, about that very issue. At some point, if the number of doses decline, and which may not equate to a decline for all of Lee County, it could be that the governor goes with the program through Publix and Walmart and doctors' offices and all of that to do the mass vaccination program. If that happens, then at some point we'll be at a cost per shot that's not going to be acceptable. But we watch that from 1 week to the next. We are prepared to pull that site down or modify it as necessary. In conversations with Angela, she can handle some number of shots through their own facility. North of 1,000 a day, I think. So we have a contingency plan, although it's not cut in stone. It's just it's a very fluid situation. But I promise you, we're taking a hard look at that.
Yeah, great, thank you.
Yeah, I think it's really important to just let everyone know, what we do out there. And second shots are 2 days, and first shots are 1 day. I mean, I think it's also important for people to understand just the numbers as they are. 266 to 270,000 vaccines is what the state receives through all the counties. We're going up to 307,000, but again, there's 67 counties trying to get their allocation, do what we can, and Lee County's done a great job in doing so. So thanks again. I know I continue to do that, but I just want the public to understand just some of the information. It's really important that you do understand that, and I couldn't agree more with Commissioner Pendergrass. It is a state program. It is a state vendor. You follow the rules, you get reimbursed from FEMA. You don't, you deal with whatever the potential consequences might be. That's all we have for walk-ons as far as...
I think you still need to take the vote on this one.
Sorry, my bad. Great.
I'll move approval.
I have a motion.
Second.
I have a second. Any other discussion? Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Next item we're done with walk-ons, we're going to carry on. County Manager Office.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To further to this conversation of the vaccination program, would like to ask Jennifer Roth from the Florida Department of Health local office to report on the vaccinations.
Thank you. What a timely time for me to come up after your conversation. My name is Jennifer Roth. I'm the Assistant Director at the County Health Department here in Lee County. I'm here on behalf of Angela Smith. She obviously is a very busy person right now, and so she sends her regrets that she couldn't make it today. I'm going to give you a brief update on COVID in general, our vaccines, and then I'm happy to answer any questions you all have. So if we want to go to the next slide, you can see here these case counts are up to date as of yesterday, February 1st. We have unfortunately had over 50,000 cases of COVID here in Lee County. That has resulted in approximately 800 deaths among Lee County residents, and over 2,000 people have been hospitalized with COVID here in Lee County. As a state, our total case count is creeping up there. We've gotten over 1.7 million cases in the state, and we do, continue to see cases every day. The good news is, however, we are in a bit of a decrease. So since the holidays, we have seen a decrease daily in both our number of cases as well as our positivity rate. To me, the positivity rate is more important because that shows the number of people being tested. And so this has continued to decrease, and even today our number was even lower for our positivity rate as well. So the good news is we are decreasing, but we still have cases, and we are still stressing those mitigation measures for everyone to continue. As far as vaccine administration, in the state of Florida, again, these numbers are accurate as of yesterday, and every day the state is giving thousands, tens of thousands of doses, really. So yesterday, as of yesterday, 1.7 million people had received a vaccine in the state of Florida. And of those, approximately 328,000 had actually received their second dose, so they've completed the series. Here in Lee County, we've vaccinated over 60,000 people. Of those, almost 13,000 have received their second dose in completion. And as the county manager mentioned, we are not the only game in town. There are other people giving vaccines, and so the other piece of that is that we've given about half. The DOH total of the people vaccinated is almost 35,000 of the ones that we've done through the county health department.
Great.
Jennifer, thank you. And commissioners, I have to tell you, Angela Smith and Jennifer and the entire local health department, state of Florida, have been just a tremendous partner. We work on this program collectively, and it is, in fact, a state of Florida program, but really couldn't ask for a better partner. I don't know how it's going around in the other counties around the state, but nothing but good things to say about the local office. So thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you very much, Roger. Absolutely. I certainly echo your gratitude for Angela and Jennifer and the whole team over there. Thank you very much. Something struck me as you were going through the numbers here on slide 10. So in Florida, I know we've got way more people to vaccinate going forward. We've got a lot of work left to do, but if you think about it, so we vaccinated more people than have actually had COVID-19 in the state of Florida. And in Lee County, we've also vaccinated more people than have actually had COVID-19 when you compare it to the all-time COVID-19 numbers. So we are making progress. It's been hard fought.
Yes, that is very true. So our numbers are creeping up there. We're hoping, the way that we're going with the state of Florida, we're almost at 10% of our population vaccinated, and similar to Lee County, we'll be hopefully at 10% of our population there pretty soon. And so, I think that is an excellent point that you make. The more people vaccinated increases our immunity, and I think that'll eventually help contribute to that decrease in cases. And, it's wonderful that we've already managed to vaccinate more people than have even had COVID in this county.
Excellent. And then one other thing, too, I wanted to ask just while I have you up there. Obviously, we always report and see the all-time number, that 50,000 in Lee County number of cases that have happened. And obviously, that is not what any of us want. But what's a more important number for us to watch right now? Is it to know the all-time number, or what the number of cases we've seen in the last 2 weeks is and where that's trending?
Yeah, I think we like to look at about a 5-day rolling positivity rate, and so that's really a positivity rate, not the number of cases. You could have 100 cases, but if that's out of 100,000 people being tested, that's a very small relative number to the rest of your population. So that's why we always talk about the rate rather than the total number. And we do like to look at that rolling rate more recently. We know people are infectious for up to 10 days initially after they are first infected. And so that 10-day period is the most critical for when they could transmit the virus. So, we really want to look at the numbers that are fairly recent, less than 2 weeks old. That'll give us a good handle on how much transmission is occurring within the county.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
I know we're using the Moderna vaccine. Were you also using Pfizer? Is it a combination of both?
So it really depends on the facility. The hospitals did receive Pfizer when they had initially gotten their allotment, and that's because they have the ability for that ultra cold storage. Right. So here at the health department, we don't have that ability, but we have plenty of capacity to hold the Moderna vaccine. So,
and I know there's one or a couple of others that are potentially coming down the pike. Any update on when we might see those, and will those help with availability for vaccine?
That is a good question. We don't know yet. None of them have received their EUA approval from the FDA, and so that's really contingent on the federal government to review that data and do the official approval from the emergency use authorization. Once the trigger is pulled on that, we very quickly see vaccine. Typically afterwards, many manufacturers go ahead and start making their doses before they even receive the EUA, and so that way they can pull the trigger on shipping as soon as it's available. So yes, the hope is that once those other doses are available, we'll receive an increase here in Florida.
Thank you very much. Here's open.
Yeah.
One quickie.
Sure.
On this that I'm looking at, I don't understand. Department of Health, y'all have your number, and Lee County has its number. Is there a separate vaccination program being administered by the DOH?
So right now in Lee County, the other people, so we're not the only game in town, the health department providing direct vaccines. So the hospital's given some, and then all of the long-term care facilities.
So that's what's included in the DOH number of 34,000?
So the DOH number is just vaccines that we've provided through the county health department. That does not include anything that went through the hospital, Publix, or any of the CVS Walgreens partnerships that occurred with the long-term care facilities.
Commissioner, the CVS and Walgreens program, they contract directly with the federal government.
In the VA, too.
I'm still not clear then what the DOH 34,000 represents. You're not running an independent program in addition to what the county's doing, or is that what that says?
That is our partnership with the county. That is anything that we have, any vaccine that the Department of Health has provided. So that is what we do at the airport site is included in that 34,700 number, yes. So any vaccines.
So the 34 is included in the 61?
Correct.
Yes.
That helps some. And also, I just yesterday spoke to a elderly couple who said they got their shot from their doctor's office. Now, how is that administered from Washington down? Which doctors get that?
So many providers in the county have signed up to be what are known as COVID vaccine providers. So that way, when more doses are available, the state will hopefully also send doses directly to them to provide.
Any doctors who have the vaccine right now have applied for that directly through Tallahassee, the Department of Health?
So any doctor's offices that would have it as of now would have been ones that the DOH had transferred them some doses in order to help assist vaccinate either their staff or some of their vulnerable 65 and older population.
People watching on television hearing this conversation, are they going to start calling their doctor because of their misunderstanding of the question I brought up, that all doctors are not going to have this available?
Right now, I would say that the vaccines are available either through our site at the airport, our partnership with the county, or through the local Publix pharmacies. And in the future, those doctors' offices who have enrolled, and that's many doctors' offices in the county, have the potential to get them in the future. Many of them do not have it right now, so once those are available, my understanding is the doctor's offices will call their patients directly and let them know, we have vaccine available, we're going to bring you in for the vaccine.
Okay, just a final attaboy to Ms. Smith and your entire staff, and back to ours. If all of you, I think, have been out to the Emergency Operations Center, and you find Roger probably sleeping there, and some of our top-level staff, there is a full court press by everybody involved here, and my hat's off to all you guys.
So Commissioner, just for clarification for the record, initially Lee Health received a large allocation. They then distributed through Lee Physicians Group, Millennium Group, some of their facilities. We then also, through the Department of Health, received it. Then you have independent facilities like Shell Point. When you put them all together, that's where the 61,000 comes from. Just want clarity. And tell Angela thank you very much for all she's done. She's been amazing to work with, and give her a lot of kudos in the most trying times. I've been in office for 15 years, so thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate that.
Thank you, Jennifer. Commissioners, would like for Glenn Salyer to talk with you about Lee County Housing Assistance Program, which is new.
Thank you. Commissioners, we do, if we could go to the next slide, please, we do want to make you aware of some additional funding that the county has received from the federal government to assist with pandemic-related housing needs. Apologies for all of the acronyms up there, but we wanted to let you know that just because our Lee Cares Individual Assistance Program has wound up and is no longer active, we are still providing lots of housing assistance through the programs that you see on the screen there. And I also want to note that the Human Services Department will be coming forward at your next meeting to accept another $1 million of community development block grant funding for housing needs as well. But what we're going to talk to you about today is that bottom line, which is $23.3 million, and exactly what that means for the county. If we could go to the next slide, please. Thank you. Basically, there are some pretty stringent requirements around this money. Eligible applicants would have to be at 80% or less of area median income, and they do have to demonstrate an impact to their financial situation that is COVID related. So you can see for a family of 1, 2, 3, and 4 on the chart down there what that means for household annual income. If you'll go to the next slide, please, what we can do under this program is provide up to 12 months of retroactive payments for rent that's in arrears, and we can also pay utility bills, and then we can pay 3 months of prospective rent. I do want to emphasize here that this is rent, not mortgage. We'll be doing mortgage-related assistance through those other programs that we just showed you, but this will be rent exclusively. So we're working through all the details of this program, but we do anticipate coming to you at the next board meeting with a firm proposal for your authorization. We are looking at putting a 6-month cap on those payments in arrears, just so that we are sure we have enough funding to address needs. We would also ask that landlords execute an estoppel certificate so that if they accept this money, they don't then turn around and evict their tenants for non-payment of rent. We would propose paying the 3 months prospectively, and just to add to that, if at the end of the 3 months someone can still certify their COVID-related housing needs, we could then pay an additional 3 months on top of that. So it's a flexible program in that regard. And the final thing we are looking at is the possibility of passing through some of this funding to the municipalities so that they could administer a program rather than have the county do all of it, just from a workload perspective primarily. But that's the nuts and bolts of it, so if you have any questions, we'll try to answer them.
How would people sign up for it?
So we anticipate, Commissioner Hammond, that it would be the same as the individual assistance program in that they would go to our web portal and use the Neighborly application that was used there, and they can make an application that way. But we also intend to try to partner with perhaps Goodwill, United Way, and then use some of our human services outlets like the North Fort Myers Library, where they have an office, to also accept applications that way as well.
Very good. Is there anything in place right now at this moment until you get this program up and running?
That previous chart that I showed you with those different programs, those are all currently active, so assistance is being provided right now. This will just allow a lot more assistance to go to the community much faster.
I have a question. When you talk about rental assistance, is that a flat number, or is the number specific to the rental of the persons involved?
I think you're asking me, Commissioner Sandelli, if it's flexible based on what their rent payments actually are. And you are correct, it is. We can pay those rents.
So it's not just a flat number that applies to anybody regardless of what their actual obligation is?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Clint, so this is great news for the future, but as far as like now, how it affects our community now, obviously you see some stories that goes it's getting cooler, some people still sleeping outside. What's our current state now, like as far as beds availability and what we're doing currently now as of yesterday? Because that story never gets told. But how many are there vacant beds out there now in facilities?
And you're talking about homelessness,
Yes.
homelessness assistance? I probably would ask Mr. Mora to...
Mr. Mora, Mark, if you'd help us, please.
Good morning, Commissioners. I appreciate that question. Yes, we do ongoing outreach efforts. Yesterday, we did one in Lions Park with our partners, including the HOT team. There were 31 beds available in local shelters at the time we did that outreach. I'd also like to suggest that we made a commitment to expanding the availability of rapid rehousing, and to this date, we've housed 61 households, which is comprised of 90 individuals, and the goal is to have 100 people housed in permanent housing over a 100-day period. So we're well on that goal that started on December 1st.
Okay, thank you. I know my colleagues attended the groundbreaking last week at Salvation Army, some more great news there. Sorry I missed that event. But so basically we had 31 beds last night were vacant, correct?
That is correct. And we are planning to do some cold weather outreach both this afternoon and tomorrow afternoon with the impending cold front.
Great. Thank you for all your work.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And Glenn, you anticipate this to come back to our next meeting? You'll have all the details worked out?
Yes, sir. We'll bring the formal proposal on February 16th.
And I think this is great news. The more we can educate our people within our community, the better off we'll be. But thank you very much for this.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Just one more comment. Some of us had a chance to visit the triage center last week, and that's something that we've worked on. We talk about specific times like from the cold weather or something like this, but the triage is there every day. And now moving along where people have a place to clean up, to shelter during the day and so on and so forth, and in the evening. And that's that stopgap we talked about for long. So congratulations, Mark, and with the Salvation Army for that work that's been done on there. That's a day-to-day asset that's available. So thank you. Keep chipping away at it.
Thank you. And Mr. Chairman, if I may real quick too, I want to echo Commissioner Sandelli's comments on the resource center, the day center that we opened up at the Salvation Army. I thought it was fantastic, and I think it's going to help a lot of people. It's going to provide an opportunity to introduce folks who come there to get cleaned up, shaved up, and fed. The ability and the introduction to the services that may be available for them. One question I had was looking at that site. Is there a way that we could look for an opportunity in the southern part of the county as well for a similar day center like that? I think the Salvation Army has already given us the model. If we could find the location and perhaps the funding, and it's something that I'm very supportive of, and I just wanted to let you all know that I'm very supportive of that idea as well. I think it would be a good one. I think we're really going to get a chance through that facility to talk to people. I went out, Mark, thank you, by the way, to the Human Resources and Human Services and Veteran Services staff. I went out on the point-in-time count last week, and we spoke with folks who are living in tents behind Hancock Square Plaza at Hancock and 41. And one of the things that I was struck by was that the folks that we spoke with did not want to at that time take any of the shelters or services that we were offering. But I could see how if you go and continue to build those relationships through your homeless outreach teams, your HOT teams, and then meet their basic needs. That's basically what they were looking for, was somebody to help meet their basic needs. You could then be able to build that relationship that could possibly talk them into coming and accepting, the triage or whatever. The one thing I wanted to point out, Mark, is I think we could. Several of the homeless people that we talked to had a bad impression of triage. I don't know, and I know triage has changed. You guys have made some very positive changes there. Some sort of way to market that to the community there so that they know that it's maybe under a different direction than it had been previously.
No, I appreciate those comments, and I agree with you that there has been some previous experiences at triage that might have made it not a ideal place for them to go. And I appreciate you also mentioning that changes have been made. They've expanded their capacities. Having some of elected officials, Commissioner Sandelli, and we had Mayor Anderson come out to visit as well, is very helpful. We extended the invitation to the Fort Myers City Council, so first starting the messaging that way. But I think there's an opportunity through social media and some of our own outreach to advertise what's going on there and how it's changed and how helpful. I think there's some success stories. I think the rapid rehousing program being closely tied with triage is a good story. So we need to make sure that people understand that's a place not just to go for shelter, but it's a gateway into permanent housing. So yes, there is some opportunity for us to promote that a little bit better in partnership with the Salvation Army.
Excellent.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
May I tag onto that, and thank you for mentioning the possibility of looking south for shelter facilities. So the thing we cut the ribbon for the other day was fantastic, and it was a great addition to the services that we already tried to provide throughout the county. But that's the throughout the county, and that's where I'm tagging onto this. Mark, I was going to ask you to visit with me after this meeting to talk about Lehigh Acres, a community now of 135,000 people out there, not all homeless, but a already place with identified camps of homeless. But there is no shelter. There's no place to get a shower, to wash your clothes, to get the meal. The shelters just do not exist there. The Sheriff's Department they're reaching out to these folks. They're not arresting them or dragging them in, but they're giving them information as to where they can come. But that's still 18 miles. And they don't have a way of getting there. And last night, when it's, winds are blowing and it's 40 degrees, they're out of sight and out of mind. But I want to tag on to what you're saying. It's not just South County. We have, such as Lehigh, very large areas unserved as of yet. So I'm thrilled about what we've done just recently, but the job's not over. So I need your thoughts as to what the county might do better. Not all right now, but is there some internal study going on about South County and or East County?
Certainly, yeah. One of the things that we acknowledge is a challenge with nonprofit capacity to operate those type of shelters and provide those services. So Human Services has been talking with our local nonprofits about their ability to expand services. I think the challenge is not only because we don't have the capacity as far as operations, but also funding is also limited for these types of activities. So yes, that's something we continually explore and see if we can engage folks in providing that same type of service we have at the Salvation Army Day Shelter in other parts of the community. I will let you know that coordinated entry is definitely where we want people to call or go to for services. There is transportation provided. I know it might be 18, 20 miles away from where they are encamped, but we do have transportation provided either by our partner or Lee Tran provides free passes for people to get to services. So we strongly encourage, until we can expand the footprint, people to call coordinated entry and get that transport to where the services are at present.
Thank you for that, and we'll chat a little more. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioners, thank you. Pete, would you talk with us for a moment about costs out at the RSW site, please?
Yes, thank you. Next slide, please. Commissioners, this is just a brief review of the site costs for the mass vaccination site. We have actual data through January 22nd. We don't have the last week of January yet, but from those 3 weeks, we can extrapolate the monthly cost. The costs through January 22nd for that site were $728,000. About $525,000 of that is the tents and infrastructure at that site, and then the balance is personnel costs. Through that time, we'd had 10 vaccination days, running 3 days a week, sometimes 4, and we administered at that site. This does not include the libraries and the rec centers that last week of December, but at that site we administered 19,954 shots. So you have a cost per vaccine at that site of about $36.52. Just as a comparison, the Medicare rate for first vaccine is about $17. So we're running approximately double that, and that's particularly a function of the amount of doses that were allotted. In order to, if there were more, then that would bring that per vaccine cost down, as well as the amount of security we have to have at that site. Average weekly cost is $242,000. So we're running at the current usage rate, we're running a monthly cost of just under $1 million for that site.
Commissioners, one of the things that we don't know just yet on that cost per vaccine at $36.52, we're not sure what to compare that with. When you see the cost per vaccination to administer through the Florida Department of Health and through local physicians' offices, their cost calculations are based on the routine. It's the schools getting ready to start and all children have to have their vaccinations, or it's the flu season and people are getting their vaccinations through Publix or their doctor's offices. So those are the only costs we have to compare it to yet. We don't have, we hope to have soon, but we don't have yet what the average cost around the state is per administration of the vaccine. So but we don't have a real good way to judge yet whether or not that's a good cost or could be better.
Just a question, Roger. The cost per vaccine, does that include the initial setup that Pete had alluded to, $525,000?
Yes, that does include that.
So obviously that, like anything that amortizes, will only go down over time?
Yes,
obviously,
it should.
Receive more doses. So
it should.
Where our cost may be a little bit higher is the infrastructure cost. I'd love to see the calculation if you remove the infrastructure cost, because you're right. Physicians' offices don't have that infrastructure cost, but in the same token, they're not vaccinating 2,500 people a day.
Commissioners, sort of intuitively, I've been thinking about that cost a lot. It seems to me that if we can get that cost down to $20, $22 per, that's probably the right, I'm going to guess that's the right range, but we'll have to see. But we'll do that calculation.
Yeah, I'd be more curious than anything else, and I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. And then, Chris, would you please discuss the communications plan with the board?
Yes, next slide, please. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Late last Thursday, the State Florida Department of Emergency Management notified the county of their plan to start a soft launch of the state's online reservation system. That online is myvaccine.fl.gov. We were notified Thursday afternoon that it was live and that we could start to push information out to our citizens. And so we posted on our website, and we also posted on our social media channel. On Friday, the state sent us a communication package that it did include a media release that we updated specifically with the Lee County information, and all of that information was pushed out on Friday. Would like to note that there is still a phone number for pre-registrations. For those who do not have access to the computer, you can find that on our website, or it is 866-200-3468. And the state is still running a hotline or a helpline at 888-499-0851. I would like to point out that at the top of the myvaccine.fl.gov page, it does list the 4 groups that have priority, which is the individuals 65 and older, long-term care residents and staff, healthcare workers, and extremely vulnerable. But if you scroll down on the page, any resident, regardless of age, can still pre-register. So there is information on that homepage of myvaccine.fl.gov for anyone to pre-register, and they are sending weekly updates to individuals who do pre-register to let them know what the current status is at that time. I would like to make one quick note that if there are any individuals who received their first dose from the Florida Department of Health in Lee County between the dates of December 28th and December 30th that have not received a call to schedule their second dose appointment, those folks should send an email to Lee, Lee-PIO at flhealth.gov. Once again, Lee-PIO at flhealth.gov. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Commissioners, one thing to mention about the MyVaccine website that the state launched last week, that's a registration program. So it's very easy to navigate. I know you all have seen it, but I've been watching the 6 o'clock news, and sometimes these things are just a mystery to me. But the website is well publicized, and it says clearly, once you register, and it's easy to do that. I don't believe that site has had a single problem I'm aware of. It says, you'll be notified when vaccines are available. But I keep hearing, but what do we do next? You'll be notified when vaccines are available. Now, I will tell you that I know the state continues to work with the vendor on building more functionality into that site. We anticipate that at some point in the not too distant future, that website's going to communicate more regularly with people who register, to let them know that, if you registered on, Tuesday, you're going to get notified before the person who registered on Wednesday, and sort of where are you in the queue. But it's a very good site. The state's done a good job with that one, and that's been the greatest source of angst for people, I think, is scheduling for their vaccination.
Yes, sir.
Roger, do we know how many people have actually registered on the new site yet, or not?
No, sir, not yet. That question was asked during the state conference call with Florida Department of Emergency Management yesterday, and they're working on trying to provide that information, but we do not have it yet.
Thank you.
And then finally, Mark, do you have anything else to add today?
Yes, sir. Just a quick update, COVID-related, no slide for this one, out of Lee-Tran. Pursuant to Executive Order 13998, the CDC issued an order requiring the public to wear face masks while on public transit. That was effective last night, yesterday at 11:59 p.m. Our team over at Lee-Tran reacted quite quickly to it. As you know, they have already had proactively implemented a lot of these precautions already. Face masks have been available free to the public and all transfer stations and on all vehicles that transit operates. We've put signage up in all of our vehicles as well as our transfer stations, bus shelters, as well as on the bus messaging board above the windshield, which I saw on my way to work today. Employees will kindly remind patrons to don a mask. They'll provide them one for free if they don't have one. Their job is to reinforce the requirement, not to enforce it. If there is a patron that does not don the mask, they will contact their supervisor, and at the next stop, or if it's at a transfer station, we'll have a discussion about the requirement with that patron. Lee-Tran staff will definitely make every effort to get the passenger or the customer to wear the mask. However, we know there might be some compliance issues, and in that case, the supervisor will certainly take on those cases.
So, Commissioners, unless you have questions, that is our report for today. I know it was lengthy, but there was a lot of ground to cover, so thank you for your indulgence.
I appreciate that. I did pass by Commissioner items, so I'm going to go to that before I go to the county attorney report. I apologize, sir.
I have nominations when you get, or appointments when you get to that.
Commissioner items or nominations?
None.
Any commissioner items?
I would like to recognize Ben Siegel as our new director of the airport here, RSW. Welcome, Bill. Thanks for being here. Congratulations on your new job. And I know it's been a trying year for everybody. And I think, Ben, you've been tested this year between COVID and between fires and everything else. So hopefully it's going to be a good year and no hurricanes. That'd be great, though. So congratulations, though, Ben.
All right, we'll deal with commissioner items. Commissioner Mann.
I'm sorry. This is an appointment, two little appointments. Cynthia DeSantis to the Riverdale Shores Improvement, and Ed Clark to the Lehigh Acres Street Lighting.
Second.
Thank you.
Motion, we have a second. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? Motion carries.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to reappoint George Oldenbutel to the North Fort Myers Street Lighting and Sidewalk Unit, and I'd like to make a new appointment to Class Act, the Conservation Land Acquisition and Stewardship Committee, of Andrew Sund.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion?
Thank you. I have a new appointment of Kathy Rowland to the St. Carlos Park Special Improvement District, new appointment of George Chavin for the construction licensing, and new appointment of Andrew Ask for historic preservation.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Motion carries unanimous.
And I have one reappointment, Miriam Ortez for the Harlem Heights Street Lighting Unit.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Motion carries unanimous. I have one commissioner item. The Captiva LDC ordinance, there have some modifications. I'm seeking board authorization for staff to engage with the Captiva panel to review and comment on any of the items they've submitted for further consideration.
Yeah, so any final decisions would be brought back to
Absolutely. Yeah, this is just to have the discussion and talk about any issues that might be under consideration. I just wanted your approval to make sure they went with that step.
Yeah, I moved the item, and they've been working with them for the last couple of years.
Absolutely.
Items, so
Yeah, this was an item that I actually picked up. John was in the process of doing this, so I want to continue it down the path.
I'll second Commissioner Pendergrass's motion.
A motion, a second. Any discussion? Any objection? Motion carries. And then I have one new appointment, Amber Evans, to the Historical Preservation Board.
So moved.
I'll second
Second.
Commissioner Mann's motion.
Thank you. Any discussion? Motion carries. County Attorney, we'll go back over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just one item for your consideration today, and that is the 46th extension of the state of local emergency to aid in the county's response to the COVID-19 crisis. We would respectfully request approval.
I'll move approval, Mr. Chairman.
Motion on the floor. Second. Public comment. Any discussion? Any objection? Motion carries. Last item is going to be public comment. I have two cards, one from Lee Joe Schottmiller, sorry. Come on up, sir.
Good morning, gentlemen. It's William Joseph Schottmiller. I'm here on behalf of the Homeless Carriers Foundation, the working poor. Heard a lot of good things. Masonry used to be done a lot better, and what is needed is us pulling together. Mark, you mentioned us nonprofits. The Homeless Care Foundation, along with the other nonprofits, are willing to work with you guys. Last meeting I was here, county manager and the city manager were supposed to meet on what we could do, and then we all sit down. I have not heard from you guys yet, so let's get this.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead.
That's not accurate. We have met with a gentleman, got to be about a month ago.
You met a month ago. I said after the last meeting,
Please.
the city manager, Saeed, was asked to meet with
Not the
you
city,
also. So it's an issue to sit down and discuss the homeless issue in the city and the county, okay? So that's what it was talked about.
The city, you need to deal with the city, the county as the county.
Okay, the city's county.
They're separate. We have nothing to do with the city of Fort Myers.
Okay. So we need to work together to alleviate this problem. And I thank God to a little boy that gave me this blanket, William Ryan. We need to, these houses, the places that are tagged, could be remodeled. You got a lot of people with skills that are willing to rehab these places, help with the work on them. Years ago, Salvation Army, back in the 90s, used to have beds available to the working class, the working poor. I do a lot of volunteer work. A young lady said she was hungry. She had to raise another $25, $80 a day for a motel, okay? That's unacceptable. We need affordable places for people to be. And the city and the county, sir, okay? So with that, I will pass, and we will all talk about that, Mr. County Manager. Thank you.
Commissioners, let's just so there's no misunderstanding among folks who may be watching today, we have spent a tremendous amount of time working with the homeless and the homeless programs and all of the partners to do exactly what's just been described. I don't want anyone to think that that hasn't taken place.
I think the frustration, I think some people just don't understand the difference between the city and county. We are not the city, and you're not Zaid, and so that's the frustrating part, because some people don't know the difference between the two.
Second comment is Jasmine Miller. Don't have any other cards.
Am I allowed to take off my mask?
Sure.
Yes, good morning to you, gentlemen. My name is Jasmine Miller, JD. I'd like to clarify something. So when I go to speak to the city about the homeless issue here, they said they also want to speak to the county together in a room. They all want to work together to help solve the problem here. So did I clarify it? So Mr. Schottmiller is saying to you all, he would like to speak to the county manager to set up a meeting between your office and also the city office, because the city want to get involved, but they want to work together. Because it's a problem also in the city, and the city is also part of the county. Okay, now, I want to make something clear. I got credible information that the president, Mr. Biden, has declared an executive order directing FEMA to assist with the homeless issue. Have you heard about that?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Who in your office is responsible to speak to the president's office and also FEMA? Who? Is it the county manager?
Mr. Chair, if we're going to engage in a dialogue, thank you.
Who is responsible for that?
Your public comments are on the record. You can certainly engage and talk to anyone thereafter. This isn't a dialogue where you ask a question, I facilitate an answer. It's public comments.
I'm sorry.
Just
Well,
trying
I've
to follow
heard
protocol.
that FEMA is now have been directed by the president to help the homeless, which means they must give them hotel rooms and help them transition into their housing. I would like for your office to investigate that. I've heard that from a credible source. Now, as far as triage goes, triage is not the gateway to permanent housing. I have a friend who was kicked out of triage because he came home late one night from work. He's a mover. So he was on the street, and at 2 a.m. he was walking over there in MLK, and he was stuck up at gunpoint. They stuck him up to his nose with a gun and took his $200. And the reason why there are empty beds at triage is because nobody wants to stay there because they abuse the homeless there. First of all, when you go to triage, they're forced you to do a psych evaluation in cahoots with Salus Care, forcing you to take a mental diagnosis which you do not have. You need to investigate triage more, and if you don't, I'm going to call up the Inspector General to do so. Now, the homeless people are sleeping at the library. One of your officers, I think it's from the police department, they went and trespassed them recently from there. That's the only safe place for the women to sleep when they don't go to triage.
Thank you for your comments. Your time's up.
Yes, I hope you help the homeless. I hope you do. And Mr. Moore, what you said today are lies. You're not helping the homeless.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Please.
Please.
Mr.
Stop.
County Manager, very rude.
Mr. Chair, finally today, and I should have mentioned earlier, I apologize, just a reminder that at 1:30 today, we have workshop on transportation CIP priorities.
Thank you. I'll call for an adjournment. Thank you all.
Thank you.